wasn't even the Autopen, apparently. It wasn't the Autopen. It was, the administration. It was all the, I got to tell you, I had no idea being a Biden aide was so lucrative. These people made so much money. Who knew that being a nursemaid to an old, demented coot could be, I may have to change careers. I'll be honest with you, I thought making memes was a lucrative job. I thought doing whatever we do here every single day was fun. I mean, this is fun. It's pretty easy. And, the money's good. But I'm going to be honest with you. I had no idea you could make so much money just by pretending an old demented man wasn't old and demented. I can pretend that demented people aren't demented. I can pretend that old people aren't old. I can pretend that guys pooping their pants in the middle of Buckingham Palace or the Vatican aren't pooping their pants in the middle of Buckingham Palace or the Vatican. I'm pretty sure I could figure out how to use an Autopen. I mean, I haven't ever used one, but how hard can it be? And man, the money you could make, holy shnikes. When you hear how much money these Biden people, these folks that were, and I guess, you know what, it's probably not the covering up or it's the actual day-to-day, because here's the thing. Yes, in the day-to-day covering up of a scandal the size of which we've seen with Joe Biden's administration, yeah, I get it. There's a lot that goes into that. But basically, what you're doing is it's not the actual day to day. It's the, hey, keep your mouth shut and don't tell anybody you're doing this. That's probably what all the money's for. Anyway, we'll get into all that here in just a minute. In the meantime, thanks so much for joining me. This is Mark K. Saves the Republic. If that's what you're here for, congratulations. You are in the right place, and we really appreciate all of your support. We appreciate everybody, all the Catriots all over the world. I used to say all the Catriots from sea to shining sea, but there's Catriots all over the place. We got Catriots in Canada, in Mexico. There are Catriots. In fact, I'm going to pull this up one day. In fact, you know what? I'm going to pull it up right now. I want to share this with you. There are Catriots listening to us and watching us live in multiple countries. I would say over 20 countries. Worldwide. I would say over 20 countries worldwide, and I would probably be accurate in that assessment. But let me just tell you, for example, we have a ton of Catriots here in Florida. We have a ton of Catriots that surround Mar-a-Lago here in illustrious downtown Jacksonville, where Catriot HQ is located. But we have Catriots in New York, Houston, LA, Phoenix, San Antonio, Lagos, which is in Nigeria, Las Vegas, which is in Nevada, Melbourne, Australia, Sydney, Australia, the Philippines, South Africa, the United Kingdom, India, Ghana, Kenya. That's amazing. I had no idea there were so many liberty-loving, freedom-defending Catriots all over the globe. But thank you all so much for listening and for tuning in. If you are not yet a subscriber to this channel, or if you are not yet a follower of this channel, now's the time to do it. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Make sure you say, yes, I want this content all the freaking time. Because like I said, we are global and we are one of the we're in the top 1% of all podcasters worldwide, which is super de-duper exciting. Listen, we got to get to this Biden stuff because it's just crazy. We've known for a long time that Joe Biden was not fit for office. We knew for a long time that Joe Biden was not making the decisions. We knew for a long time that Joe Biden wasn't holding cabinet meetings, and like the last cabinet meeting he did have, his wife led it. Could you imagine? I mean, how is that possible? Could you imagine if you turned on this podcast one day and my wife was sitting here going, "Hi, it's Mrs. K. Please subscribe to the channel." That would be kind of funny. Actually, she would hate it. She's a behind the scenes person. She's not an in front of the camera person, which is why we get along so well, because she's not trying to muzzle it on my territory. And I don't, and when she tells me, what's going on in the background, my face just, gloss. I have no clue what's going on. So that's the thing, but it'd be like that. You walk into a cabinet meeting. I mean, imagine this. You're the Secretary of State or the Secretary of Defense or Secretary of any of the other Health and Human Services, Veterans Affairs, whatever it is. There's a whole bunch of them. And you walk into a meeting and you sit down, and where the vice president is, you have Kamala Harris, which is bad enough. And then where the president's supposed to be, there's an empty chair. And then all of a sudden the door opens and his wife walks in and sits down. And you're supposed to take this seriously? I mean, they were all in on it, so it didn't really matter. But James Comer, James Comer, who's leading up the investigation in the House of Representatives into this Biden scandal, was on Fox News yesterday. Listen to what they're now uncovering, and they're subpoenaing, and they're bringing in all of Joe Biden's administrative officials. They're bringing in all of Joe Biden's well-paid aides who pulled a fast one on not just the United States of America, but the entire globe. Listen to this.
Was the president even mentally fit to make those decisions? And that's why we brought Dr. O'Connor in. And Dr. O'Connor, when the first question we asked, were you ever told to lie about Joe Biden's health?
The White House physician, yes.
The White House physician, and he pled the Fifth Amendment.
So
he wouldn't answer that.
You referred to him and then two other aides, Anthony Bernal and Annie Tomasini, all of whom pleaded the Fifth, to the Justice Department. Right. What are you expecting them to look into?
We believe there was a cover-up of Joe Biden's mental fitness. The fact that Joe Biden met with Ian Sams, his White House spokesperson, 2 times in 2 years. The fact that he met with Neera Tanden, who was his executive secretary, once every month or whatever. I mean, it's shocking. Every other president, President Obama, President Bush, President Trump, they meet with these staffers multiple times per week. And Joe Biden was clearly shielded. And I think you wrote very well and very accurately in your book that he was shielded from people. He was shielded from Pete Buttigieg. He was shielded from his inner staff. So the question that I think the Department of Justice needs to ask these people that pled the Fifth, was there an organized cover-up? Why did you not give the president a cognitive test when even mainstream media outlets were demanding that Joe Biden take a cognitive test?
Jake Tapper, remember, authored a book called Original Sin. And I think it's hilarious that James Comer from Kentucky, one of the most anti-Biden Republicans we have, the guy who's been tasked with getting to the bottom of this whole issue, James Comer is on there on CNN on Jake Tapper's program praising him, saying, I think your book was amazing. You hit the nail on the head in that book, that expose you wrote. And he's doing it for 2 reasons. Number one, because, he's right. Jake Tapper totally sold Joe Biden out, and for once in his life told the truth about something going on in the White House, which was, I'm still not, I guess it must have been a pretty decent payday for him to turn his back on his entire party that way. But number two, he did it again to remind everybody that Jake Tapper's a turncoat. And if I ever meet Jake Tapper, I'm going to be like, hey man, great book. We loved it, man. I was talking to the Trumps the other day. We were talking about how amazing your book was. Way to go, Jakey. Because that would just be like a little dagger in his side. Even though, like I said, he got multiple millions of dollars for that book. But James Comer saying, look, we know all about it. We talked to his doctor. We have that. Do you remember his doctor, Dr. O'Connor? Here's the thing. Dr. O'Connor pleads the Fifth when asked if he was ever asked to lie about Joe Biden's mental acuity.
Dr. O'Connor, were you ever told to lie about the president's health?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer. I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Let the record reflect that Dr. O'Connor has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Dr. O'Connor, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer, and I must rely on my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Okay, now I'm not going to play the whole thing. Now, I'm not a lawyer either, but I did get waitlisted by one of the finest law schools in the country. And what I learned by being on the waitlist is that the Fifth Amendment is against self-incrimination. Doctor-patient privilege is something totally different. They didn't ask him, hey, was Joe Biden an old coot who couldn't think for himself, could barely stand, pooped his pants, and maybe didn't have the mental stamina of a vegetable? They didn't ask him that, because if he'd answered that question, that would be a breach of doctor-patient privilege, confidentiality. That wasn't the question. The question was, were you ever asked to lie about Joe Biden's condition? Did anyone ever say, hey, don't tell anybody that Joe Biden's a vegetable. Don't tell anybody that Joe Biden's not in charge. Don't tell anybody Joe Biden doesn't get out of bed and that we're all calling the shots and that we're using the Autopen to sign documents, including pardons, presidential pardons. Don't tell anybody that. That was the question, and that's not covered by doctor-patient confidentiality. The question was, did anyone ever ask you to lie? And he pled the Fifth. And we all know that's an admission of guilt. But it's not even that. Ron Klain, who was his chief of staff, was brought up. Yet listen to this is a whole bunch. This is Ron. Well, you know what? Let's actually start with Mike Donilon. Mike Donilon. I'm not really familiar with Mike Donilon. He's recently come to be known as one of Joe Biden's staunchest aides or like his right-hand man. Listen to this testimony of Mike Donilon when it comes to his compensation package working for Joe Biden and how much money he would have received had Joe Biden continued on as president.
That's my view.
Just to be clear, would the amount of pay you received for your role in the campaign, would that have changed depending on how far into the race President Biden made it?
My sense is that
This is called running out the clock, by the way. This is called, he's like, he knows this deposition's only supposed to be like, I don't know, 90 minutes, whatever. So he's like, it's a simple question. Would you have been paid more if Joe Biden had stayed in the race longer? It's a simple question.
in my view, the money was that it was a guarantee for the campaign that we had a negotiation, and that's my memory of the agreement.
Would you have received a bonus depending on the way the campaign went? Was that a possibility?
How the campaign went.
I mean, this is this to me, by the way, and I can't fault him because I would totally do the same thing if I were in. They're asking him how much money he made. $4 million, by the way, working for Joe Biden's campaign. $4 million to be Joe Biden's aide during the campaign. That was the base pay. $4 million. $4 million. That's half what Beyonce got for a 3-minute stint with Kamala Harris, by the way. But $4 million to work on the Joe Biden campaign. And what if Joe Biden had continued on? Would you have gotten more money? And he's like, what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Were there any circumstances in which you would have received a bonus?
Yes, it was.
What were those circumstances?
That Joe Biden would have been reelected president of the United States.
What would the bonus have been?
I believe it would have been $12 million.
In addition to the $4 million that you were already paid?
Yes.
Okay, I want you to be clear on this. This guy is tasked with helping Joe Biden be reelected. He gets $4 million for that somewhat impossible job. Help Joe Biden get reelected, $4 million. If Joe Biden gets reelected, he gets a bonus, an additional $4 million. Now, if you're somebody who is getting paid $4 million just to be there, and you know if you can help this mentally declining, tripping over himself Alzheimer's patient get back into the White House, if you can do that, then you get an additional $4 million. Do you think that maybe you would pretend that your client, not so bad. Joe Biden's doing fine. I mean, think about that. $4 million to get this guy reelected. And if you do, you get another $4 million. You're probably it's going to be a tough call to come clean with the truth. It's going to be a tough call to be like, look, $8 million is a lot of money, but I have to be honest with the American people. This guy isn't fit to run this guy can't even run. He can't even walk on the beach. This guy trips and falls. He has no idea where he's going. He doesn't take any meetings. I mean, it's $8 million. They're not paying him $4 million to run a campaign. They're paying him $4 million to run a campaign and keep his mouth shut. Keep quiet. And if Joe Biden gets reelected, you get another $4 million, but then you keep your mouth shut even longer. That's what the money's for. The money's for silence. Do the job and remain silent. It wasn't just him, it was everybody. It was Ron Klain.
His rhetorical skills were not as strong as they had been.
This is Ron Klain, former White House chief of staff under Joe Biden.
And his speeches were less effective, I thought.
We talked about age. We knew it was
This is Steve Ricchetti. He's the former counselor to the president.
an issue, and we tried to design a strategy.
We had a discussion.
Anita Dunn, she was a senior advisor to the president. I think she worked in the communications office. Wait.
His rhetorical skills were not as strong as they had been. And his speeches were less effective, I thought.
We talked about age. We knew it was an issue, and we tried to design a strategy.
We had a discussion at the senior advisor level about whether the president should have a cognitive exam.
Flashback now to the legacy.
We had a discussion at the senior advisor level. Should the president have a cognitive exam? I imagine that was a very clear, I imagine that was a very short discussion. Here's how I imagine that discussion went. Hey guys, should Joe Biden have a cognizant, pardon me, let me take two. Hey guys, should Joe Biden have a cognitive exam? Hell no! Are you out of your mind? You want people to know that he's cognitively declining, that he has no control over his own faculties or his body? Well, I was just thinking maybe we should have a cognitive test taken in case, he's not able to run. $8 million. That's what you're getting if he runs and wins. So shut your trap and don't ever mention the C word again. Cognitive decline. Oh, okay. That's how that conversation went, I imagine.
Media's complete denial of the president's cognitive decline.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
His mental acuity is great. It's fine. It's as good as it's been over the years.
He is sharp. He is on top of things.
Do you regret saying that President Biden had a mental acuity? He had a sharpness to him.
I said what I believe to be true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
I said I had not seen decline. And I hadn't.
He is just fine. How people interpret that is up to them.
We're watching the testimony of this woman here, Annie Tomasini. She's the former senior advisor to President Joe Biden. She was the third person set to appear before James Comer's committee. She has now taken the fifth. There is now a pattern of key Biden confidants seeking to shield themselves from criminal liability for this potential conspiracy.
Were you ever told to lie about the president's health?
The advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Dr. O'Connor has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Dr. O'Connor, did you ever believe the president was unfit to execute his duties as president?
And we can tell you that he will have the same answer with respect to any questions that are asked.
Did any unelected official or family member of President Joe Biden execute the duties of the presidency? Did Joe Biden, a member of his family, or anyone at the White House ever instruct you to lie regarding his health?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
And if that wasn't...
Yeah, that's great. I don't know who put that together, but bravo to them. Whoever that was amazing. That's exactly what happened in the Biden White House. They all lied. They all covered it up, and they all pled the Fifth Amendment. And I guess they were all expecting to get Autopen signed pardons, which now may not be worth the paper that they're written on. And that is something that can. Scott Jennings, by the way, was asked. He was on CNN. He was asked about the Autopen scandal, and he brought up a great point that it's not the Autopen that's the problem. It's who ordered the Autopen to be used. That's the problem.
What about the pen? The auto pen has been used. Presidents, as you pointed out, used it. There's precedent for that. That's fine. The question is, did the president himself authorize or make the decision that led to the use of the auto pen? And what the committee found was that there were numerous instances where there was no real direct chain of evidence going from presidential decision making to the use of the auto pen. And in the last 3 months of the Biden administration, I mean, he was, I think we all acknowledge, and the reporting is very clear, in severe cognitive decline. And so the committee the committee, you don't agree he was in cognitive decline?
I do not, because there's no medical evidence to say that. Now, that's a political talking point for some of you on the right, but there's no evidence to point to that. Dr. Scott.
Do you know?
Dr. Scott, do you have evidence?
Do you know why the president's physician took the Fifth Amendment before the committee?
No, the same reason why Republicans have taken the Fifth Amendment under oath.
Listen, if you're here to argue the sharpness of Joe Biden, I commend you on your effort.
I'm not here to argue that. I'm just saying there's no medical evidence to point there was some cognitive decline.
Do you have eyes and ears? I think you do.
I do.
Okay,
the same eyes and ears that saw.
And here's the thing:
this president prevented a government shutdown during his time. We talked about the bipartisan legislative agenda that he put together. So I do have eyes and ears, and you do too.
You want to go, or you want me to go?
I'll go now.
All right. So the committee found that in many instances they could not trace presidential decision making to the use of the Autopen. It's unprecedented. We've never had this situation before. So it's not the use of the device. It's a question of presidential power. The Constitution says only the president can pardon, as you pointed out, but he has to make the decision. An unelected staffer cannot say, well, we think he's okay with us pardoning this group of people, and let's do it. That would be extra constitutional, and now the DOJ has to decide what to do with it. I'm not sure what you do. I guess you go ask a judge if these decisions are traceable. But
extra constitutional, which also means illegal. That's basically like against the law. Extra constitutional means totally 100% illegal and corrupt and horrible. That's basically what that means. You know who, by the way, and this is very funny. You know who, by the way, is a huge fan of presidential pardons? Well, except when it's Donald Trump doing it. The recipient of a presidential pardon, Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff was pardoned by Joe Biden for any and all roles he may have had in the impeachment of Donald Trump. I guess because what Adam Schiff was afraid that Donald Trump was going to come after him. So he got a preemptive pardon from whoever signed it at the White House. We think maybe Joe Biden could have been the Autopen. And now Adam Schiff, pardon recipient, is totally against pardons.
And it's illustrative of the same message Donald Trump continues to send donors and friends. If you've got enough money or the right political connections, the law simply doesn't apply to you. Think
about that. If you have enough money or the right political connections, the law simply doesn't apply to you. That could be Adam Schiff describing his own situation. He broke the law. He broke the law and lied about testimony in the impeachment trial of President Donald Trump, the first one. He broke the law and tried to create a manuscript that did not exist and put it into the congressional record as evidence against President Donald Trump. He broke the law. He was censured by his peers in the House of Representatives. He was given a representative censure, and now he's, of course, a senator. And then he was pardoned last minute by Joe Biden or whomever decided that the Autopen should give him that pardon. And now, all of a sudden, pardons are a horrible thing.
After case, the message has been clear. Loyalty to Donald Trump is more important than the rule of law. It is more important than anything in the public interest. This is not what the framers intended when they gave the president the authority to grant clemency. And they certainly never envisioned it as a get-out-of-jail-free card for political allies, campaign donors, and business partners. But this administration has turned the pardon power into a tool for corruption and self-dealing.
You know, you could just take Donald Trump out of that whole speech and switch it with Joe Biden, and it would make the same amount. It would make the same amount of sense. It would just be, it would be exactly. It would really probably be even more. It would make more sense. But Adam Schiff is now accusing Donald Trump of doing everything that he himself has received from Joe Biden. He was a political ally of Joe Biden. He swore his undying loyalty to Joe Biden. He did whatever he had to do to protect Joe Biden. And guess what? He got a pardon in the end. And that is exactly what he's now accusing Donald Trump of doing. Donald Trump of doing as well. And look, and they're not even, CNN's not even pretending anymore. Jake Tapper, by the way, he's in a really interesting spot. Jake Tapper had, what was her name? Jake Tapper had the woman, I forget her name. But basically she was not at all excited that this was Melanie Sanborn, I think is her name. She's a representative, Sandberry, pardon me. Melanie Sandberry, I believe, is from New Mexico. And she was on with Jake Tapper right after James Comer, and they were talking about the government shutdown. And the government shutdown still going on, day 29. And this Saturday is a big day because that's when the SNAP supplements roll, the SNAP payments run out. And the Democrats are now, this is really interesting. The Democrats have come up with this new spin for the shutdown. Basically, what happened is the Republicans in the House of Representatives, by a small majority, passed the continuing clean CR. No additional spending, no additional projects, no earmarks, no pork, no nothing. Just let's keep these Biden-level spending levels for another 6 weeks so we can get back into committee and come up with the appropriations plans we were supposed to come up with, months ago, and we didn't. Blame John Rutherford for that. So that was the plan. The Republicans passed the CR. They passed it to the Senate. It required 60 votes in the Senate. Doesn't have it. They have 55. They need 5 more Democrats to vote. And 13 times now, those 5 Democrats have said no. 13 times, those 5 Democrats have said, we are going to keep the government shut down. We don't care that the military is not going to get paid. We don't care that essential federal employees or non-essential federal employees aren't going to get paid. We don't care that the unions, the government unions are calling on us to open the government. We don't care that air traffic controllers aren't getting paid, and that could cause massive backups and delays and hassles and dangerous flying conditions. We don't care about any of that. We don't care that our own staffers are not going to get paid because congressional staffers don't get paid when the government shuts down. They don't get 13 times now they voted to shut down the government, and they're doing it because they want illegal aliens to take your tax money and get free health care. That's their goal. They want free healthcare for illegal aliens, and they want you to pay for it. And so they are going to keep you from getting your paycheck and getting your essential services and getting the military to protect you from foreign enemies, all enemies, foreign and domestic. They're going to shut it all down. And Jake Tapper was asking Melanie Sandberry about that because this week SNAP shuts down. And the Democrats can't take responsibility. They can't say, well, it's our fault that SNAP shuts down. So guess what? They're now trying to blame Donald Trump and the administration. They're now trying to say Donald Trump is not using the emergency funds to pay for SNAP. It's Donald Trump's fault that SNAP is shutting down, but nobody's buying it, least of which Jake Tapper.
The conclusion of this 93-page report hinges on the lack of written approval traceable to the president's own consent when it comes to these pardons and highlights staffers' confusion about the paper flow. Democrats drew their own conclusions. What evidence are you pointing to that refutes this report?
Well, Jake, thank you so much for having me on. I have to say that I am deeply disturbed that this is a lead story on national network television tonight, as we are 4 days away from 42 million Americans losing food assistance, as literally the White House is building a $300 million ballroom, and they are choosing to cut off food assistance and SNAP to 42 million Americans. They are going to let seniors, children, veterans, and millions of Americans starve. And this is what we're covering. So let me just say this. The bizarre obsession that House Republicans have with Biden is exactly that. He's not even president right now. Donald Trump is president. He is literally overseas. He is not trying to reopen the government. He is not trying to feed the American people. He is not trying to deal with the healthcare crisis. And he literally was being led around a ballroom by the Japanese Prime Minister last night in the apparent confusion that he himself is unable to perform the duties as the duly elected president. So, okay,
let me get to the end part. She rambles on a lot. But basically, here's what happened. She starts talking about SNAP, and Jake Tapper's like, "Look, lady, you guys can open up the government at any time. Listen."
Sitting there. That is why the states are suing. The White House is withholding funds from 2 to 3
weeks worth of SNAP funds.
Food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it may not be a big deal to you, but let me tell you that for the grandparents. For grandparents
it is a big deal
that
to me.
Literally are feeding their children.
My point is that it's a short-term solution.
In those accounts.
It's a short-term.
At the end of the day, people need to be able to feed their families, and Saturday is when those funds run out.
If you feel so
and
strongly,
we are fighting
Congresswoman,
to get
why
that
not
funding.
ask the Senate Democrats from New Mexico to vote to open the government so that the SNAP funds
I am here in the House of Representatives. It is shut down. I am fighting to get the government reopened. I am fighting to...
Hold on, wait, let me get back to... I missed a part. Here we go. Listen carefully.
To open the government. Yes, it is.
We know that they know that they're breaking the law because just a couple of weeks ago, they moved funds into WIC to save WIC, but they think that they can use the hunger of children to try to leverage Democrats rather than feeding 42 million Americans, and we're not going to stand for it. We're going to sue them. We're going to use the courts. We're going to use Congress, and we're going to do everything we can at the community level to make sure that Americans can put food on the table this weekend,
Should the
and we're
Democratic,
not going to stand for it.
Should the Democratic senators from New Mexico, your home state, vote to open the government so that these SNAP funds are not at risk?
Let me be clear. The administration is choosing to starve American children with money that they already have appropriated.
I'm not applauding
this
their. I'm not applauding their
by
tactics.
the White House.
Well,
this is a choice by the White House.
This
they
is
are
also,
choosing
Congresswoman,
to
this
cut
is
off
also a
food
choice
assistance.
by Senate Democrats
No,
to not
it is
vote to
not.
open the government. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. I mean, Jake Tapper gets it. If CNN's Jake Tapper can get it, how come these Democrats can't get it? She's saying Donald Trump is choosing not to use these funds that have already been set aside for emergency services like WIC. Why isn't it that Donald Trump is choosing to starve children? And Jake Tapper goes, your Democrats from New Mexico are choosing not to open the government. They could just vote to open the government. She goes, no, they can't. He goes, yeah, they can. It's the same thing. It's a choice by the Democrats to keep the government shut down. She goes, no, it's not. Yes, it is. You have a choice. 55 Democrats, Republicans, and independents. Well, 2 Democrats, 1 independent, have decided to reopen the government in the Senate. 55 people, 2 Democrats, 1 independent, and 52 Republicans have all voted. Yes, let's reopen the government. Yes, let's fund SNAP and WIC, and let's pay our troops and our air traffic controllers and our federal employees and our own Senate aides. Let's do all of that. Let's open the government back up so that all of these foreigners that are coming to visit the Smithsonian can go see Dorothy's ruby red slippers and all that other stuff that they have in there. The Bert and Ernie dolls and Kermit the Frog, and I think they have. There's like a whole like Woolworths counter, I think, and it doesn't matter. But that's what they want. They want the government open, but they don't want to sacrifice their illegal alien health care. And so they're choosing not to. And Jake Tapper calls that out on him. And she's like, look, let me be clear. Anytime somebody says, let me be clear, it means they don't want to answer the question. Let me be clear means I'm about to lie to you and I'm about to spin something in a way that I think makes sense, but it totally does not. And kudos to Jake Tapper for, first of all, having James Comer on there to talk about Joe Biden's scandal and making it the lead story. And then telling this woman, Melanie Sandberry, you guys are the problem, not the Republicans. It's you guys. And Brooke Rollins, by the way, is saying it's all a lie. Brooke Rollins, Secretary of Agriculture, she's like, look, they're all lying. This is not at all what's happening.
Does the USDA have the money to keep this program should you choose to, or has the well truly run dry?
100% unequivocally, USDA does not have the $9.2 billion that it would require. There's not just pots of $9.2 billion sitting around. And what's particularly rich about New York saying that, or California, or any of these other blue states that have filed the lawsuit that say, oh no, we're going to go, you guys, USDA, go find the money, is it's their very friends, partners, colleagues, Democrat elected officials that continue to vote over and over again to keep the government closed. Again, shame on them. I cannot begin to understand what they're thinking. Even their own union, right? Even their own federal government employee union, I don't know the exact name, is urging their own Democratic leaders to open the government back up. Listen, Chuck Schumer's getting paid. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is getting paid, but our air traffic controllers not getting paid. Our food stamp recipients are not going to get their benefit beginning Saturday. Our law enforcement, those that are keeping us safe, not getting paid. It's unbelievable, and I've never seen anything like this. It's surely they're going to change their mind and vote to open any day now.
Hopefully they're going to open any day now, but you never know. You never know what these Democrats here, they have to really make a decision because there are there are some races that potentially could that could go one way or the other, but very few of them. One of the biggest is Jon Ossoff, who I mention all the time in Georgia, because Jon Ossoff is, first of all, an idiot. Second of all, he's a horrible senator. Third of all, he didn't really do anything. And he's in Georgia, which is a red state, voted for Donald Trump. That state, they say, leans Democrat, or that race leans Democrat. But the last election, he got 50.62% of the vote. 50.62% of the vote. So that could really be a toss-up. And if Jon Ossoff fears that his own party is going to sacrifice him to the Republicans, he's not going to vote to reopen the government. But if he feels that his constituents and the Republicans and the folks who lean to the right in that red state of Georgia would be happier with him or more likely to give him 6 more years in the Senate if he did reopen the government, then he might be swayed that way. Right now, though, he's still voting to keep the government shut down. Tina Smith is retiring in Minnesota, which doesn't mean so she could keep the government shut down as long as possible. But it would be great if she decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do the right thing and open up the government and make it easier for the next Democrat to come along. Gary Peters, same thing in Michigan. That's a toss-up. What's going to happen there? Is Gary Peters going to be able to make a play for whoever's following in his footsteps? Janine Shaheen in New Hampshire. She's retiring, but she could do the right thing and flip her vote, and that would maybe make it easier for a Democrat in what is typically a purple state to win their election. So a lot of politics at play here. One of the guys who is getting pressure from MSNBC is from Vermont, the other senator from Vermont. His name is Peter Welch. And you got Bernie Sanders, who's an independent, basically a communist, and Peter Welch, who's a Democrat. And I feel is under pressure by people to reopen the government and is old enough to remember when government didn't work this way.
Are you ready to vote with the Republicans to reopen the government at this point as a reasonable Democrat? Maybe others would follow you.
You know, I'm not there yet because we have had literally, Joe, no discussion whatsoever about how we're going to deal.
This is the right way to do it, Senator? By people not getting paychecks at the TSA? This is extortion. You think this is the right way to do it? In your conscience, you think it's the right way to do it? I never thought I'd say that, Andrew, that it as a human being, he always says that. As a human being, you think this is the right thing to do? That's your line.
Well, that's why Senator Hawley and have our bill to make sure that folks get the nutrition that they absolutely need is why the president is paying the troops.
Yeah. Josh Hawley, by the way, is he's trying to, I guess it's good. It's a good thing, but it's also kind of a bad thing. Josh Hawley, he wants to open up parts of the government with legislation. He wants to do things that, he wrote an opinion piece. He's basically saying we need to come up with stopgap legislation for a couple of these programs. We need to make sure that we are funding SNAP even though the government shut down. There are 10 GOP senators now who are co-sponsoring his bill, but a lot of GOP senators are saying this doesn't solve the problem. In fact, this makes the problem worse. If the Democrats are saying the only leverage we have is the pain of the American people, and then the Republicans come in and alleviate that pain, well, that just means the Democrats are going to keep the government shut down even longer. Josh Hawley's SNAP funding bill would be like a rifle shot bill. That's what they call them. 10 GOP senators have signed on to back Senator Josh Hawley's bill to fund the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program as the government shutdown threatens a program lapse in November. Lankford from Oklahoma. This is a great list. Lankford from Oklahoma. Murkowski from Alaska. Susan Collins from Maine. Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, who's usually pretty solid, but she's leaving to run for governor. Bernie Moreno from Ohio. Kevin Kramer, North Dakota. Bill Cassidy. Katie Britt. John Husted. And John Cornyn. They formed a coalition to advance Hawley's legislation. I would not put my name on anything that James Lankford, Murkowski, Collins, Bill Cassidy, and John Cornyn were on. I don't know what the rest of them are doing. But look, I mean, the fact of the matter is, you've got to keep it an all or nothing scenario. You can't say we're going to open up parts of the government, because then the government's going to be shut down forever. You can't just say, well, we're going to pass legislation to fund the troops and fund SNAP, but the rest of the government's going to be shut down forever, because then it's never going to open back up. The Democrats are going to be like, fine, you're feeding families and you're paying the troops. Okay, well, we're just going to keep the government shut down. And then the Republicans are going to come and say, great, we got what we wanted. The government will be completely shut down forever. You have to keep it all or nothing. Otherwise, you're going to be passing legislation to just slowly, I mean, I guess that's one play. You could just keep passing legislation with Republican majorities to get everything back up on the table. And it's almost like reopening the government piece by piece by piece. But I don't think there's a lot of Republicans that want to do that. I know I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to give any leverage to the Democrats, because the Democrats have already said their leverage is the pain of the people. Those people can't be rewarded. You can't reward somebody who says people's pain is our leverage. People's pain is our pleasure. If causing American suffering is your whole policy, I mean, that's not a policy, that's cruelty. If that's the way you run your life, if that's the way you run your party's got to be run out of town. The Democrats are over it. They have to be ended. This party cannot exist past this shutdown. Why? Because they're using the pain and suffering of the people who they've sworn an oath to protect. I mean, think about that. Everybody in that building, everybody in that big, beautiful Capitol dome, everyone who works underneath there has sworn an oath. I'm going to swear it. When I'm elected to Congress, I'll be swearing the same oath to the Constitution. Protect the Constitution from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. Well, what happens when the person swearing the oath of office is the domestic enemy? You've got all these Democrats. You've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You've got Bernie Sanders. You've got Chuck Schumer. You've got Hakeem Jeffries. You've got all these people who continue repeatedly. You've got 40, however many odd Democrat senators there are that continue to vote to keep the government shut down. You've got you've got Catherine Clark saying it's the only leverage we have, the suffering of the American people. Chris Coons said it. These people are the dumbest people in the entire world, or they just are the most heartless. Chris Coons, who's from Delaware, he's a senator from Delaware. He took over Joe Biden's job when Joe Biden went to go be vice president. Chris Coons heard Chuck Schumer get railed when he told that reporter, every day gets better for us. He saw the White House destroy Catherine Clark when she went on and said, yes, we know people are suffering, but it's the only leverage we have. He saw they just got hammered repeatedly. It destroyed the Democrat Party, and it made the Republicans way more popular when it came to this government shutdown. And what does he do? He goes out and he doubles down by saying the same stupid thing.
Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. Frankly, this is our only moment of leverage. And although a very unpleasant tool to use.
Frankly, yeah, it's unpleasant, but it's our only moment of leverage. He's saying the same things over and over. This is how they feel. They don't care about you. It's an unpleasant tool to use, and we're using it. It's causing suffering among the people who hired us to protect them from all evils. If you are taking an oath of office to protect the Constitution in the United States of America from all enemies, foreign and domestic, and you're one of those domestic enemies, I mean, I feel like that's a lie. If you're like, I'm going to protect this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to become one of the domestic enemies. I mean, what do you do in that scenario? You have to get rid of them. You have to get rid of these people. They have to be gone. They have to go. There's no way to coexist with these people who want to destroy you and cause you pain. The minute, look, John Rutherford, who I'm running against, has he caused me actual physical pain? No. Has he starved my family? No. Has he has he lied to me? Yeah. Lies to me all the time. Lies about how he's going to represent us and then goes and votes with Democrats. Lies about what he's going to do and then goes and gets super rich on insider trading. He's not a great politician. He's not a great representative. He hasn't caused me physical pain, though. These Democrats, they're causing people physical and emotional pain. The people that voted for them. It's really sick and twisted. And that's not a party that should be allowed to have any power anywhere. Local level, the state level, federal level, absolutely not. They've all got to be extricated from government in some way, shape, or form. Listen, something that has not caused me pain at all ever is Augusta Precious Metals, because they know how to take your finances and protect them long term. They know how to take your finances and grow them. Put them in a safe haven asset, a safe haven investment that is going to grow faster and better and stronger and more reliably than anything else, more reliably than the stock market, more reliably than Bitcoin. They're going to create a situation where your money, when you invest it with them in precious metals IRAs and precious metal investment accounts, can get 25% in just the last 9 months. Ever since Donald Trump came back to office, I guess it's 10 months now, almost 10 months since he came back to office, gold has gone up 25%. Meaning if you had taken your $50,000, which is the initial deposit, and put it with Augusta Precious Metals, then you would have had 25% more money by now. It's a safe haven investment, safer than anything else out there currently. And if you don't believe me, go to getmarksgold.com and talk to the folks at Augusta Precious Metals. Go to getmarksgold.com and get your free gold guide. Learn all about how you can take your $50,000 IRA, your $50,000 401k, your $50,000 cash savings, whatever it is, and invest it in a safe haven investment that will protect you and your family for years to come. It's called gold. It's called silver. It's called Augusta Precious Metals. And you can get all this by going to getmarksgold.com. There's a link conveniently located in the show notes and the description of this video. If you'd like to just click on that link and get all that information that I talked about right there. But this government shutdown, the Democrats are losing. They're losing. They're losing everything. And we know that because CNN's Harry Enten is doing polls about how the Democrats are losing the government shutdown.
Starting with Republicans. How has the shutdown seemed to have affected their political standing?
Yeah, you might think, given that the Republicans are in charge of both the House and the Senate, that a government shutdown might actually hurt the Republican brand. But in fact, it hasn't. If anything, it's been helped a little bit. Take a look here, the shift in net popularity versus pre-shutdown. When we're looking at the Republican Party overall, that brand actually up 2 points. That's within the margin of error, but clearly it hasn't dropped. Come over to this side of the screen. Look at the net approval ratings for Republicans in Congress. It's actually up 5 points since pre-shutdown. So what we're seeing here is the Republican brand in Congress has actually improved somewhat compared to where we were pre-shutdown, despite the fact that Republicans control. And that's the math that John Thune and Mike Johnson are looking at is, well, hey, why should we give, and electorally speaking, when our brand has actually improved a little bit?
Now, we say their position.
Okay, before we get to the next part of this. So look at this. Net popularity pre-shutdown versus post-shutdown. It's been over a month, right? Before the shutdown, the GOP overall in Congress had a net approval rating of 2 points. That's great. Usually people hate Congress, no matter who's in charge. No matter who's in charge, the Congress is always the least liked of any branch of government traditionally. But check this out. You now
Getting
have
better with whom?
You now have 5 points, which means it's more than doubled since the government shutdown. Why? Because the Republicans are voting to open the government. There's no way to spin this if you're a Democrat. They're trying, but they're failing miserably. They're trying to spin it that the Republicans are bad, but the Republicans, with the exception of one, Rand Paul, who's basically a libertarian, so no one's shocked by this at all, but the Republicans are the ones voting to open up the government. It takes 60 votes to open up the government. Of the 55 that we have, 52 are from Republicans. So you can't really spin it that they're the bad guys in all of this. And if the Republicans in mass, 99.9% of them are voting to open up the government, yeah, their approval rating is going to go up.
Okay, with whom? So I think it's two groups that it's so important to keep an eye out on. All right, change in the Republican Congress's net approval rating versus pre-shutdown. It's rallying the base for sure. Look at this, the net approval rating up 12 points versus pre-shutdown. But it's not just with the base. It's also with the middle of the electorate. Look at this, among independents. It's up 8 points as well.
Wow, that's a problem for Democrats. That's a problem for Democrats. That's a problem for John Ossoff in Georgia, that the independents, the ones that could push him back into the Senate for 6 years or destroy him forever, the independents are supporting the Republicans. The independents are saying, hey, you know what? In Georgia, we might actually vote for a Republican this time to represent us in Senate because we believe that they're actually going to represent us in the Senate. What's going to happen in other places? What's going to happen in New Hampshire? The independents are falling toward the Republican Party because the Republicans are the ones voting to open up the government.
We've got a situation here where Republicans with the shutdown are actually rallying their base, but it's also something that's not hurting them with the folks in the middle. If anything, it's helping them with folks in the middle. And this is the type of math that if you're Republicans, you like to see, right? Because something could rally the base but alienate those in the middle, or something could rally those in the middle but alienate the base. But the truth is, we're not seeing that. What we're seeing is the Republican brand has actually gotten better among independents, and it's also gotten better among Republicans as well, that Republican brand when it comes to those in Congress. So again, what's the electoral reason that Republicans would give in at this point?
And Democrats, of course, they have their eyes.
What's the electoral reason Republicans would give in at this point? This is horrible news for the Democrat Party, because this, again, is CNN. This is CNN. CNN is reporting that Republicans are winning with their base, up 12 points. They're winning with independents, up 8 points. Democrats are seeing this and going, CNN, shut up. Republicans are seeing this and going, we're never giving in to Republicans. We're not going to give. You've got Jake Tapper out there telling this woman from New Mexico, we don't believe a word you're saying. Call your senators and tell them to reopen the government. You'll get your SNAP payments back. We've got Democrats all over the place saying, we know it hurts, we know it's suffering, but it's our only leverage. They're literally saying, this is all we have. If we don't have this, we don't have anything. That's what they're saying. And their base comes Saturday when they don't get their SNAP payments. Their base comes Saturday when they don't get their paychecks. Their base is going to flock to the Republican Party, and those numbers are going to go up even higher, especially with the independents. And then the Democrats are going to have to give in, because they're the ones that are losing this battle.
On the midterm elections. Yeah, we have elections 1 week from today, but what Democrats in Congress are mostly focused on are 1 year and 1 week from today from the midterm. So how are they positioned right now?
Yeah, so, I mean, look, the generic congressional ballot, which traditionally Democrats have done really well on, and if you look at this point back when Trump was president the first time around, Democrats are up 11 points. Look at where it is now. Democrats are ahead, but they're actually only up 3 points. This is, in fact, the worst position Democrats have been on in a generic ballot at this point in midterm when there was a Republican president in the last 20 years.
This is the worst point. Let's play. You know what? I just like to listen to him say it. Let me listen to him say it one more time.
Democrats have done really well on. And if you look at this point back when Trump was president the first time around, Democrats are up 11 points. Look at where it is now. Democrats are ahead, but they're actually only up 3 points. This is, in fact, the worst position Democrats have been on in a generic ballot at this point in midterm when there was a Republican president in the last 20 years. And this is no different from pre-shutdown. So Republicans aren't losing on this metric either. They become more popular, and they're actually in a pretty good position for them historically when it comes to the generic congressional.
Look at this. The Democrats have not gone up at all. And on the generic ballot, they're in the worst position they've been in 20 years. Which means Donald Trump and the Republicans are positioning themselves well during this shutdown to maintain control of the House of Representatives in 2026. Donald Trump and the Republicans are doing whatever they need to do, and they are doing a bang-up job of maintaining the House of Representatives in 2026, which is crucial to Donald Trump getting the rest of his agenda accomplished in his final 2 years of the presidency. And the Democrats are suffering; they're losing. They're usually 11 points up at this point. Now they're at 3 points up, and it hasn't moved since pre-shutdown. They're losing. They're losing. They're losing. Let's see what else they have to say here.
This is a concerning number for Democrats, are you saying, Congress?
This is a concerning number for Democrats because it's considerably worse than they traditionally do in midterm elections when there's a Republican president.
Harriet.
Okay, there you go. This is concerning for many reasons for the Democrats. Number one, because basically this number says you guys suck. Nobody likes you, and you're going to continue to lose. And again, if the Democrats had any sense, they would have looked at the last loss. They would have looked at the massive L they took in 2024. They would have looked at Donald Trump skating back to the presidency. They would have looked at Kamala Harris underperforming Joe Biden as a presidential candidate. They would have looked at the losses in the Senate and the House of Representatives. They would have seen how Americans trusted Republicans more than any Democrat to lead them. They would have seen how confidence in their party has just crumbled and dissolved and been destroyed. They should have regrouped, looked at what the Republicans were doing, looked at what Donald Trump was saying and saying, you know what, we can work with that. We're going to move back to the middle. We're going to get away from this crazy lunatic left-wing communist DEI crap, and we're going to try to win back some of American voters. But they're not doing that. They've doubled down and they've raced to the far left. And that's why Zoran Mamdani is going to be the next mayor of New York City. That's why you have whole swaths of DEI communist enclaves across the country when the rest of the country is bright red. The Democrats are basically saying, you know what? If the United States of America wants moderate Democrats, or if they want somebody who's going to work with Republicans, or if they look at Donald Trump and say that's the agenda we want, then we don't want any part of it. And they ran farther to the left, and they're becoming their own little mini communist party. They're going to win in New York, which is bad, but it is the worst thing you can do when you're in a position like the Democrats. I, for one, am thrilled that the Democrats are in a horrible position. I, for one, am thrilled that the Democrats are committing political suicide because, well, like I said moments ago, the Democrat Party cannot exist in this country after this shutdown because they are shirking their constitutional duties to protect Americans. They all swore an oath to protect Americans from all enemies, foreign and domestic, and then they became the domestic enemies. And that's why their party must not be allowed to retain power in the House of Representatives or anywhere else, in my humble opinion. Hey, listen, if you want to read something special, if you want to read something really great, or if you don't want to read it all, but you want to hear me read it to you, get the Go Trump Yourself digital bundle, which is available right now. This is a book that I wrote last year, and it is all about President Donald Trump and his characteristics that lead to his unequivocal excellence. We'll say it's basically how Donald Trump gets so good at everything, and how can you be as good at Donald Trump as everything you do. That's what this book's about. It's highly entertaining. You can read all of the great comments there. This book is hilarious. It's hard to find humor in the day-to-day chaos that is caused by our political elites. Inspirational. One of the most honest and precise books about Trump. Wendy wrote that. This book is Trumpulous. It is a must-read for those that love America and all it affords its U.S.-loving patriots. And you can get that book, again, download it instantly at gotrumpyourself.com, or the link is in the show notes and description too. So you can go down there, click on the link and get yourself a copy. Download it instantly. You get the ebook so you can read it on your e-reader. You get the audiobook so you can hear me read it. It's only $24, and it is something that is going to be an inspiration and hopefully change your life. Something else that's going to change your life is subscribing to this channel so that you're here with us every single day, because every single day, we got stuff, man. We got stuff you need to know. We got information you need to grow. We've got inspiration you need so that you remain happy and contented with your life, so that you know that all things are not lost. We've got the enlightenment that all conservatives need so that they can continue to work and strive and live happy and healthy and content in the knowledge that they will, for the rest of their lives, be able to protect their freedoms, their liberties. And if you are one of those liberty-loving, freedom-defending patriots from all of those countries we mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, then thank you so much for being here. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you listen every single day, because we all must continue to stick together and fight so we can save the Republic. GoTrumpYourself.com. You can get the book right now. It's downloaded right to your device. You read it. You can listen to the audiobook. It's fantastic. Don't take my word. There's a ton more reviews, by the way, if you want to go check them out. GoTrumpYourself.com.